Hello and welcome into another episode of Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Ada Moore, and we've got a little bit more meat on the bone to talk about this episode, but it'll still likely be a decently short episode, but we'll see. A lot to talk about though when it comes to topics, and obviously we'll start out with the elephant in the room, the national championship. Last weekend of college football. Any thoughts leading off? I mean, I know it's pretty.
I think the real narrative going into this game and exiting this game is I think the 12 team playoff works in the end. And I think right now we're entering the new era of college football. We've seen it with all the realignment and everything that's going on. And a lot of people had the concern going in that oh, only the big dogs are going to be winning national championships. It's only going to be Alabama, uh, Ohio State, and like all these teams. But I feel like this year proved that the process does work. Is the process perfect? No. But I think we're getting interesting matchups now. We're getting matchups we would have never thought of before. Granted, if Kirk Signetti was coaching IU and had this team, let's say 10 years ago, I think IU would still be in the national championship conversation, but I don't think we would have a Miami. I don't think we would see the matchups that we saw. I don't. I think the SEC bias would be a lot more strong, and I feel like this year is going to be known as a year that narratives really start to shift. I think it's going to be the year where it, it's going to be a year for the history books, a year where we point to saying this is where things started to change a little bit. We saw a little bit last year with Ohio State winning the national championship, but now we're seeing, hey, even teams that are on like bottom feeders of Power Four conferences, they still have a shot with a good network, a good base. They still have a shot to really make it noise. Texas Tech is going to be one of those teams that's going to be dangerous in the next couple of years. And I think we're just going to see a lot more interesting matchups. And I'm very excited for the future of college football. I think one of the best takes that I've had is when it comes to like the past year or two has been this is not going to the NIL era is not going to be the era where just the big dogs eat. It's going to be the year where a lot of people start eating and talent starts getting a little bit more spread out. I know some people aren't necessarily so excited for that, but I think it's better for the sport and I think it's better for the fans in general. I think going forward, we're going to see more realignment. And this is just the one hypothesis that I have. I think we're going to start going away from mega conferences very soon. I think this SEC experiment, I know the Big Ten has been very successful, three consecutive national championships, but I don't see it being sustainable 10 years down the road. So I think this is going to start moving some stuff in different directions, and I'm excited to see where it goes moving forward.
Yep. And I tend to agree with you on that. Outside of Oregon, who has realignment really helped outside of Oregon? Obviously, Cal, Stanford probably have a little bit more of a stable home. SMU is getting a little bit more money. But outside of those four teams, who has realignment really helped? I feel like we would have had Oklahoma in the playoff anyway. Big 12 or no Big 12. Texas, I think, has honestly been hurt by realignment outside of like last year. And they haven't been in the SEC for that long. So I'm not saying it's a failed experiment, but what people hope, and it could be, okay, they're getting money hand over fist, but are they really getting that much more money? Are they really getting that much more pull because they're in the SEC? I mean, Texas was already a massive program. I honestly think, you've talked about it a lot on here, and I know we're getting away from the national championship, but I think when it comes to this year's narrative, I think outside of, saying, oh, Indiana, it's a great story, with this new NIL era, it can be anyone now. If you play your cards right and get the right guy, you can get these quick rebuilds. like this if you find your right guy.
Hmm.
And that's not taking. I'm not trying to take away anything from Fernando Mendoza or whatever that Indiana team does. That was a master class of using the portal and building with what you have. But going back to narratives, um, and like what you have said, that you think the next big kick, whether it works or not, is going to be going independent.
Texas
Texas
is
is
going
one
to,
of those teams that
yeah, Texas is going to be the next team that goes independent. I'm calling it by 2030. Texas is going to be an independent team.
they already have the Longhorn network. I mean, Notre Dame, they don't have their own network, but let's be honest, NBC is practically the Notre Dame network right now. And
Yes,
that's not a shot. That's just who they have their deal with. They
it's
cut a
been that way
deal that's
for a
miles
while.
ahead of miles ahead of their time.
Hmm.
Teams that I could see feasibly being working independent, or fitting that independent vibe. If I'm being completely honest, Michigan, you're not in my mind. You're not one of those teams that I feel like could fit being an independent. Oregon, sure. I don't think they will. I think they're living and loving the Big Ten a little too much right now. I mean, they
Hmm.
have they've gotten. I feel like the respect for Oregon has increased a little bit being in the Big Ten, and that's no shade to the Pac-12. But some years, Pac-12 wasn't necessarily that strong. UCLA, I really don't think their move to the Big Ten's worked out too well. And it could just be they've had some down years, but even in basketball, they're kind of how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah,
USC,
I could
USC's
see it.
been good, but like I could see them going independent. They give me major independent vibes. I really don't think being in the Big Ten's really necessarily helped them a whole lot. Maybe with money, but outside of money, and I know money talks, money's everything right now. But I really, at least from an athletic success standpoint, don't think conference realignment has helped that many teams. Sure, with these smaller group of five teams, they're finding conferences that truly want them. Some teams are getting group of five call ups. Like I think Cincinnati moving to the Big 12 was the right decision.
Hmm.
UCF, not so much. UCF made sense in the moment, but they have not lived up to the hype like people thought they would. Um, but when it comes to other thing, like push comes to shove, like you said, teams I could see going independent. Um, Possibly a Texas Tech, but I think they're loving the Big 12 a little too much. Like
Yeah,
I think they're happy with the Big 12. Like you said, Oregon, I could see them going independent. Texas, well, like I said, Oregon loves the Big Ten too much. Texas, USC. Um, Let
I
me
could see
think.
Miami.
Yeah, Miami. I could see them, but I honestly think the fact they were in a conference helped them a little bit more this year.
Maybe, but I think Miami was very close to not making this playoff. They were
Yeah,
kind of hurt by the fact that they were in the ACC, and they just proved that they deserve to be in the championship contention, just
yeah,
by like being in the ACC. And I think I could see moves for Miami. And granted, these are all hypotheticals. Like, I understand me like us saying like independence the next uh, move. It's a little bit of a hot take right now. Like, if you just look at it objectively right now, technically speaking, big conferences are still working, but I just don't see this being sustainable. And I see athletic departments shifting towards like the idea, hey, we're kind of just being held back by, let's say, like in the SEC, the Arkansas, the Kentuckies.
yeah.
Even Vanderbilt had a great year this year, but like I could see some teams saying like, we're really helping Vanderbilt by still being here. We're not helping ourselves. And just the nature of Texas uh, itself, they're very much, if this isn't helping us right now, we're going to try to find something new.
Yeah.
And we saw last year, Notre Dame took the whole, all revenue coming from their playoff run, it went directly into house. And I think for like teams that are in conferences, that money gets split among all the schools in that
Some of it does,
conference.
yes.
Some of it does. And just the way money talks now, I think either schools are going to start renegotiating contracts with conferences, and conferences are going to be hurt even more, and I don't see the conferences letting up on the money that, let's say, Texas, Miami brings to their respective conferences. But I could see those schools going like, we either need to renegotiate or we need to leave. And that's this might be a take that's a little bit too ahead of its time right now. But that's just
This may be
my
20 years.
this may be a future thing, but you heard it here first. And bringing it back to the national championship game, let's talk about the game itself. IU was very dominant. Indiana, extremely dominant team. Definitely going to go down as probably one of the best teams in college football, just on the sheer fact that they went undefeated this year and went through a gauntlet of a playoff run, but still made it look really easy. Traditionally speaking, blowing out Alabama is a big deal, especially in the Rose Bowl. Blowing out Oregon in the manner that they did, that's very impressive. And this close game against Miami, it was still a very impressive win. We got to see a lot of like very good play calls by Kirk Singetti. The play of the game obviously has to be that Fernando Mendoza quarterback draw on 4th and 5. Gareth and I were talking about that. That was a elite, just elite college football moment right there. And the better team won. Uh, Miami had Carson Beck throw the interception in the final drive, and the better team won. And very, very happy to see Indiana in the position that it's in right now.
I think I agree. And when it comes to some of the stuff with the game, the even crazier thing is that quarterback draw call. The play didn't even play out how it was supposed to. The instructions. Fernando Mendoza went into an interview. He said the instructions were if it was man, I forget if it was one of the two. If it was man or zone, he was supposed to take off. If it was the other, he was not. But then
Mm-hmm.
he goes, they came out and Miami was running a complex coverage where it was man to one side and zone to the other. And he goes, in a split second, he goes, I had to decide to either, he goes, throw to my passing concept to the left or just take off. And he goes, it was like, he goes, Kurt told me, he goes, had I waited like, maybe a quarter of a second longer, that would have been blown up. He goes, in the moment, he was like, I had to just decide to take off. He's like, I saw my running lane and it was closing. So he goes, I just took off.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, like with the Carson Beck interception, believe it or not, Carson Beck only lost 5 or 6 games in his college career. How many of those do you think ended with an interception on the
Five or
final
six.
drive? 5 out of 6. 5 out of the 6. There's one that did not end with a pick on the final play.
Damn.
Narratives, people, narratives. But no, yeah. Nothing else. I'm excited for next season, obviously. Transfer portal has officially closed. CJ Bailey did not leave. Thank fucking God. Although, career path I'm looking at, I probably shouldn't be dropping F bombs on here, but who cares? Who cares? The portal is closed. Yeah. I think it's a successful season. I think this obviously will go down as a pretty good season. Like you said, I agree with you. I think the 12-team playoff works. In a normal
Do it.
year, if we were in the 14 playoff, yep.
Yeah, is is it without its flaws? Absolutely not. Like it has its flaws, but it's working right now. Like, and we're seeing matchups. Like, if you told me 5 years ago, now granted, this IU team is an anomaly, but if you were telling me, hey, we're seeing a 10-2 ACC team versus a
You
historically
know.
low Big Ten team that's on an absolute crazy run right now for the national championship, I'd be like, what the hell happened? And I think yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I like it. And I think, like you said, I think some of this kind of like the frustration with the current state is going to wear itself out. We are finally going to be filtering out these 7th-year people. Like it's the beginning of the end. Now, obviously, we're going to have those. Even before NIL, we had those guys who were 7th years just because they kept getting fucking hurt. There was like a receiver for Oregon in 2019 who was like 28. And it's just like no one was hating on him because it's like, dude just had season-ending injury after season-ending injury. And yeah, you had a couple people commenting, bro, just give it up. But like, they were truly gruesome injuries. I'm like, man, just the fact that he had to go through that, bro deserves his one season. Bro deserves the one season he's got left. He had like the 4 most devastating injuries known to man 4 years in a row. Like, dude, I feel for you. We're not completely done with the COVID red shirts, but it's the beginning of the end. Now, I will say one thing. I see a big criticism of Indiana is, next year I wonder what team full of 24-year-olds is going to beat another team. I think people are forgetting red shirts exist. It's not uncommon for the national championship winning team, even back in the BCS era, to have a lot of 23 and 24-year-olds. It's not that uncommon. Back in the day, like I talked to my dad about it. He goes, back in the day, he was like, he goes, outside of your skill positions, he goes, it wasn't uncommon to redshirt your freshman year. And then your fifth year, be a 5th-year senior who's like 23, 24. He's like, that's not uncommon. He's like, people are acting like this is ungodly and unprecedented. You have people who decide to go serve in the military and then come back. You've got people who decide to go play baseball and come back. Chris Weinke, one of the great quarterbacks of all time in college football, was a 27-year-old freshman. Or he might have been 24. He was playing at 27. But he went and tried another sport. We don't bat an eye when we see 30-year-old kickers out of Australia.
We don't bat
Who
an
are
eye
coming
when
over
we
for grad school.
see man with a wife and 2 kids at BYU.
Because he was on his mission. He was on his mission trip for 3 years. His mandatory mission trip. Like, people are really pick and choosing their issues here. Like, I get they're trying to be nuanced and be like, oh, but then they say stuff like, I don't think there should be 24-year-olds in college football. Okay, there have always been 24-year-olds in college football. I hate to break it to you. I really do. Now, yes.
Gareth might start kicking in grad school. We don't know.
Hey, I got a ball that I prepped. Remember, they're kickers. It's okay. Kickers and punters, it's okay. Kickers and punters, it's okay. But I'm sorry, you're never getting rid of 24, 25, and 26-year-olds in college football. With injuries and stuff like that, yes, will they be a lot less common? Sure, yes. We probably won't see another Stetson Bennett, who's, 26. Like we'll always have our 30-year-old kickers from Australia, New Zealand, and England. Or, guys in grad school who kicked in high school who determine, hey, why not? Give it a go. You'll have your Mormon quarterback who's 26 because he had to do his mandatory mission trip. I'm not hating on that. I actually like that. Gives it some flavor, some stories.
Yes.
Guy who was
a
guy was serving his religion.
Boring. College game day would be very boring if we did not have these storylines where we could have a 10-minute documentary on Jimmy, the 30-year-old placeholder.
Who cares? I think it will be a fun story, Like, for instance, say there's this guy, he goes to the seminary, decides it's not for him. A guy who thought he was going to be a Catholic priest comes back and wins the Heisman. That could be a fun story.
That would be a fun story.
That could be a fun story. Or a guy who wants to go to Baptist Divinity School comes back. I mean, the Mormons are already doing it at BYU. Goes to Baptist Divinity grad school for a few years, decides, hey, I want to come back and play college football. That could be one hell of a story.
Indeed.
But no, I think we beat the horse dead on college football. We'll have our football award show. You know how much of a doozy that was last time. That was an absolute doozy.
After the Super Bowl, man, it's award show time.
Just Gareth and Aiden shooting this shit over football. 4-hour episode. What are they even talking about at this point?
The Cooper DeJean White Boy of the Year award.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
But no, with that being said, we should probably hop into the NFL. So yeah, we got a lot wrong this weekend.
I want to formally apologize. I don't think I know ball anymore, Gareth. You might need to find a new best friend to do this with.
I think we just had a bad weekend because when it came to the college football season, you and
Hmm.
I were pretty good. I'll
Yeah,
have to admit, you and I were pretty good. You and I were actually pretty good when it came to the NFL season. I just think a lot of unprecedented things happened this past weekend.
and
And
you
one,
can't put it on Gareth if there's no precedent. Gareth
yeah.
is a precedent guy.
And let me just start off by saying, and you could say cope all you want, you didn't have that great of a season. Boy, am I glad we took Bryce Young instead of CJ Stroud right now. On the one hand, you have a guy, honestly, not a bad rookie year, but not the best. Terrible sophomore season. But into the sophomore season, he understood it now.
Mhm.
And then by all means, had a pretty good third season. Had a pretty good third season. I'm not like we weren't winning games because of Bryce. We were winning games because of Bryce, but I will say there were very few instances where we were losing games because of Bryce. Those were few and far between. I'd be willing to say we only lost about 3 games because of Bryce alone. And I'd say considering where we were, that's a win. And probably due to some play call inconsistencies and lapses, there is probably 1 or 2 wins left on the table. And all of a sudden we're talking about 10-7 as opposed to 8-9. On the other hand, we have a quarterback who had a just probably one of the best rookie years we've seen out of a quarterback. Took a little bit of a step back, sophomore slump, but with these rookie year breakouts, you see that. And then just absolute regression. One of these quarterbacks absolutely rose to the occasion against a pretty solid defense. The other absolutely had a mental breakdown on one of the more mid defenses in the NFL. I'll let you take a guess at who's who.
Mm.
Yes, both teams did lose. One team left it out there on the line. They took the Rams basically to 20 seconds left. It took till 20 seconds left in that game for a winner to be decided. The Panthers' kind of lackluster offense went toe to toe with one of the best offenses in the NFL. The best defense in the NFL could not keep CJ Stroud in a game. Now, I'm not pinning it on the defense. That Texans defense did everything they could. They caused Drake May to put the ball on the deck 6 times in that game. Drake May fumbled
Mm.
6 times. He only lost 3, but still, he put the ball on the deck 6 times. CJ Stroud. On top of that, Drake May threw 2 interceptions. CJ Stroud, your defense got Drake May to put the ball in jeopardy 8 times. 8 fucking times. They got him to turn the ball over 5 times. And what do? You turn the ball over 5 times too. But on top of that, you couldn't move the ball. Yes, you were missing, your top wide receiver targets. And I love our Panthers wide receivers. They're great. They're up and coming stars. But that's not to say we don't have our, a little bit of our Spaghetti guys a little bit there, Xavier a few times. When you need Xavier Leggett to catch a ball sometimes because you need him to catch it, he drops it. But when it's a swing pass and honestly you probably hope falls incomplete. Of course, Leggett makes like catch of the year just to lose 3 yards. It's like, bro, just drop it, please. Just drop that one, please, bro. And yes, he was missing some weapons. But don't sit there and tell me that the Texans didn't have a chance to win that game. Don't sit there and tell me that because they absolutely did. Like I said, the ball was on the deck 6 times. How the fuck do you not take advantage of that? And then you throw 4 boneheaded interceptions? Dude. Some of those are just bonehead reads. Like I'm talking Carson Beck level at this point. I like CJ Stroud as a quarterback, but goddamn has he regressed. Talk about regression.
Mm.
I'm not going to sit here and act like Drake May had a good game either, but at least he could move the ball.
Mhm.
CJ Stroud was seeing ghosts against, the Patriots defense isn't bad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're bad, but, they're kind of, I'd say middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack. So not a slouch whatsoever, but, not the best, certainly. I mean, overall, yeah, the Texans probably have one of the worst offenses. If that's how they move the ball, they're probably not a very good offense. I mean, I'm looking here at the stats, and yeah, they're the 23rd overall offense, but that New England defense hasn't exactly been something to write home about this season.
Four
I mean, that's really
interceptions in the first half, three of them being in the second quarter, is a little bit outrageous. I'm just gonna say that's a little bit outrageous.
yeah. I don't know if you have anything else to add. I'm kind of done. I don't want this to become the shit on the CJ Stroud show,
I mean,
but
it was tough game. I mean, like, just not a good performance by the Texans, which is disappointing because this was a Super Bowl caliber defense. But in it, I mean, Drake May did not have the best of games, but at least being able to throw three touchdowns against this elite defense does say something. Granted, turnovers on both sides was a little bit outrageous, but I think the main factor that I brought it up a little bit in the previous podcast, but it really played more of a factor than I thought. That New England weather. I don't think I don't think the Texans offense was ready for that. I think that
no.
played a pretty big factor in this game. But I think the more embarrassing loss, in my opinion, has to be the Bills against the Broncos. Like, yes, blown calls, bad calls were aplenty that were against Buffalo, but I'm not gonna lie, Josh Allen did not have the game that he needed to have in this game. Two interceptions. There were just some very bad and crucial mistakes that really tipped this game in favor for Denver. Closing out in the second half, with an interception and Denver being able to turn that into 3 points, that went a long way in this game. Just little mistakes like that turned into big mistakes, really put this Buffalo team in almost an impossible position to win. And I think Denver won in spite of themselves, and I think Buffalo kind of gave this game away a little bit, if I'm being honest. Like, this was Buffalo's chance to go to the Super Bowl this year and win it all. And unfortunately, it just did not turn out that way. And I think that this is a devastating loss for the Buffalo Bills.
It is. And I'll get into my rant in a minute, but I don't think firing Sean McDermott was the right move. I think that was a little bit of an overreaction. I think in the long run, that is the wrong decision. Given the big guy in the market, like the big names in the market are currently housed again. Like Harbaugh's what at the Giants now. Other teams are hiring away some of the bigger names out there. So I think this is going to go down as a blunder, and I think ultimately the Bills are going to take a step back because of this, because it's just who are they going to now? It could be now when it comes to NFL coaches, my ball knowledge is not quite there. When it comes to
Mhm.
NFL players, schemes, strategy, the X's and O's, I'd say my ball knowledge is there. But when it comes to NFL coaches, like the amount of coaches you have on staff, obviously there's a lot of coaches on staff in college, but in coaches that matter on staff that make a difference. And I'm not saying other coaches in college don't, but like with how big these organizations are, I don't know every fucking name on the list. Like for all I know, there's some like water boy on the Chargers who's like an absolute genius. And I don't know it because I just don't pay as much attention to the NFL. And that guy is like key to the is a large part of the Chargers' success. And I just don't know that. But I don't think firing McDermott was the right move. I think that was a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, if even Buffalo fans are disagreeing with that, talk about overreaction. If even Buffalo fans are like, well, that's a little bit too far. You've kind of gone too far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now comes my next point. And I think this is something that you and I have touched on in college football. We've touched on it in our bowl game episode, I believe. Consistency. Consistency.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off by saying Gene Steratore is an employed rules analyst. And I know to a little bit, he's kind of got, to have the NFL's hand up his ass a little bit to keep his job. So I can't fault him entirely. Bro can't absolutely be like, I don't get this call. It makes no sense, dude. Makes no sense, Jim. I don't know what they're talking about here. I don't know what they see. If he talked like that, he probably wouldn't have a job, if I'm being. But when it comes to the Buffalo call, and then what happened, what game was right after that? What was it? It was, there was a catch in like the immediately preceding game right after that. That was basically pretty similar. Was it in the Bears game? Possibly.
I'd have to look at it.
But point being, the only thing I'll say about the Bills catch is a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's the right call." People are just crying. He didn't have full possession. My only question is, if he's not down by contact and didn't have full possession, show me where the ball moves. Show me where the ball moves. Anytime I've engaged with someone with that, guess what? Can they come up with where the ball moves? No. They all say at different points. They can't agree on where the ball moved, which makes me think the majority of people who watch that game don't have a clue what they're talking about. I had no dog in the fight. Yeah, would it have been cool to see the Bills win? Yeah, but I quite frankly don't care.
Yeah.
But show me where the ball moved. You can't. And I get initially it's ruled an interception. And it would be one thing if the logic they used was, the call on the field was an interception, there's not enough evidence to overturn it. Okay. But again, show me where the ball moved. Now, give me a second here. And this is a point I've made before. Controversial catch. Where is it? It was Broncos. Hold on, give me a second. Broncos Bills was the one that we're talking about, and then obviously let's go to the NFL real quick, and then we'll go to that's Bills Jags. I believe it was Rams Bears, if I'm not mistaken. There was a play very, very similar in which they ruled it a completion. And how do I say this? Like, when it comes to consistent, my main issue is when they use the same verbiage, the same explanation, and get to two different answers. I'll harken back to something we talked about previously this season. One of them was an Ohio State game. The other was a North Texas bowl game. In the North Texas bowl game, their quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, throws an interception. Nothing controversial about that. Clean interception, clean catch. On the return, it appeared that the DB got into the end zone for a pick six. But upon further inspection, the ball comes out. From one angle, You can tell the ball is on the deck and the returner is not in the end zone. From another angle, you can see where Drew Mestamaker, the quarterback, made contact with the DB who picked him off, clearly short of the goal line. But from the angle down the goal line, you could not tell whether the ball was out or not because their backs are turned. They ruled, and Gene Steratore agreed, that you could not piece together different angles even if they are synced up.
Yes.
The very next fucking game, what do they do in a review? Well, hey, Jim, we were able to piece together several angles and line them up, and we can confirm this is a touchdown. Do you see what I'm getting at here?
I do.
And we've known the NFL has an issue with what's a catch. That's been a fucking issue for years. College, I think, does a better job. But am I wrong in my understanding of this being a catch? So, from my understanding of a catch, and this could just be the college understanding, I know college, it's 1 foot and control.
Yeah.
In the NFL, my understanding was 2 feet and control.
Yes.
Now you've got this whole has to survive the ground bullshit. If you're down, you're down. I'm sorry. In my mind, if you get 2 feet down and you have control of the ball at the time that you're 2 feet or down, it's a catch. I'm sorry. If you're diving on the sideline, like you have control, you're 2 feet hit, then your knee hits, and then your hands hit and the ball comes loose. I'm sorry. That's just not incomplete.
Yeah.
But the thing is, my issue with that is that's not even consistently called. Well, you see here, Jim, with the angle of his feet, and he had 2 feet in bounds, he actually doesn't need to survive the ground. Sometimes it's, 2 feet down in the control, and then all of a sudden, well, you see here, Jim, he starts to make a move, so that means it is a catch. I think I do think a catch is going to be an issue like targeting is in college, unfortunately. I think it's going to become where if the rules are clear, the enforcement's not going to be consistent. But then the year where the rules are incredibly unclear, there's going to be some sort of consistent enforcement when it comes to the rules. Like it's still not going to seem consistent because the rules don't make sense. But at least to the verbiage of the rules, it's going to be consistent calls, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like the logic's going to be sucky, but at least the calls will be consistent.
Yeah.
And I think like I think who was I forget if it was Reese Davis or someone else who had a great point about targeting. Targeting 1 and targeting 2. Targeting 1's just basically an unnecessary roughness. Hey, watch yourself. They're like, it was helmet to helmet, but there clearly was an intent. It was a violent hit, but homeboy, you were just a little out of control. No ejection. And then targeting 2, it's clearly malicious intent. I think we need to have a very similar sit-down discourse about what a catch is and what a catch is.
Yeah.
College, we don't really have these debates. And it's a difference of just 1 foot versus 2 feet down. Can't we just take the college logic and apply it to 2 feet? Is it that hard? Is it that hard to apply the college logic from 1 to 2 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Keep the other rules the same, just 1 to 2 feet. Is it that hard? If the NFL, and I don't think it's rigged, but if the NFL wants to do their best to beat these it's rigged allegations, they don't do a very good job. Like I said, I don't believe it's rigged.
Yeah.
But you're not doing a very good job of beating the allegations here.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I have for the Broncos-Bills game. Obviously, like you said, the Bills did not have the game they needed to in order to win that whatsoever. Whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I'm you want to move on to the next game, or are there any other games you want to touch on? I mean,
Yeah. I do think
it was
is.
was it Bears Rams? It might have been Bears Rams. That was the other controversial. But we'll move on.
Yeah. But Bo Nix is also out for the rest of the season with a broken ankle. as the Broncos move on to the AFC Championship game against New England. We will be discussing that a little bit more in our predictions. But moving over to the NFC, another embarrassing loss this weekend, only this time of just, it was just BTA. Seahawks handedly take down the 49ers, and I was pretty shocked to see this. I know the Seahawks are good, but I did not expect this level of caliber coming from them. This offense is dangerous, and Sam Darnold did not have statistically like the most like impressive game. 124 yards, one touchdown over the air, but this Seahawks defense was able to absolutely shut down Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, and San Francisco had no response to it. Seattle's offense was able to really click at the right moments with rushing attack behind Kenneth Walker the third with 3 touchdowns on the game. This Seahawks team is very dangerous, and I'm liking them moving forward. But if you have any thoughts, we can go over to Bears Rams.
It's my thoughts are this Seahawks defense is on another level. Schematically, personnel wise, they are just a machine. They
Yeah.
are, if you remember on the History Channel watching the show Modern Marvels, just like it's about like, machines and technological behemoths that have been, built recently. This defense is bananas.
Hmm.
Scheme wise, just their whole philosophy, the way they call plays is very interesting. Again, I watch a lot of football videos on YouTube just to that I have a better understanding, so I can talk about things like in an educated manner on here. There was a video that I watched. It was an hour and a half long on just the structure of the Seattle Seahawks defense, and it's like, holy shit, man! Like, I don't know who's gonna win the Super Bowl, but whoever it's gonna be is gonna have to beat the Seahawks. That's all I'm saying, and they're gonna have to figure out whatever that mess is
Yeah.
defensively.
Hmm.
But again, I just don't think it was the 49ers day. I mean, from the get-go, you could
Absolutely.
just kind of tell the energy was different.
Is this the end of the championship window for the 49ers?
I don't know.
You
I
have
think with
a
how
quarterback that's on the verge of top 10, definitely top 15, but you've relied on a lot of injury-prone players, and this game just kind of signified to me like the end of an era.
possibly, but what I will say is what makes me think at least their championship window might have closed, but at least I don't think their relevancy window has closed because this was a team that was able to continue winning with Mac Jones at the helm.
Hmm.
And I just think because of how much of a genius Shanahan is offensively and the defensive people he employs like Sala and other people, I think because of how good of coaches they are, they're always going to be relevant and in
Yes.
a playoff talk. But when it comes to a Super Bowl, I think the current San Francisco 49ers in their current iteration, I don't know if their window's closed, but it is closing fast.
Yeah,
Relevancy,
and
sure. I think they're going to always be in the playoff talk. They may even have a few frisky years where it's like, oh, they're the 2 or the 3 seed. Oh,
mhm.
but with the way that the Rams and the Seahawks are trending, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be
Yeah.
difficult.
Hmm.
And if Sam Darnold's able to show, even if they don't win the Super Bowl, but if Sam Darnold's able to show that he can be good in the clutch, they still lose the Super Bowl, but he has a phenomenal performance in the NFC Championship game and even in the Super Bowl. Say despite his best efforts, they still lose. I still find it hard to believe that the 49ers are the top dog in the West anymore. I think the
Hmm.
Rams are back. Rams are back to not 2021 level of success, but I think the Rams are back. The Seahawks are most definitely back. it's really hard to see where San Francisco fits in there other than like, you're above average. They're good. They'll make the playoffs. They'll beat some teams handedly because they've got some players and they've got a good scheme. But I think when I say rebuild, I think they're going to have to build around Brock Purdy a little better. They're going to have to find some new players. They're going to have to find some new guys to do it. Obviously, they're paying Brock Purdy a whole shit ton of money. He's one of the most highest paid quarterbacks, which I don't know if that was a good decision. But hey, he was the rookie phenom, Mr. Irrelevant, and you had to keep him around. You had to pay him to keep him around. So I get
Yeah,
that. I just think a little too far in that. You've limited yourself in other aspects here.
yeah,
But yeah. After that, I think I'm good moving on to Bears Rams.
yeah. I think
Holy
this
fuck.
is, yeah, this game was very interesting. I mean, the play of the game is not even a game winner, but
Yeah.
that's just how, like, play of the year was that, what was it, 4th and 4, 4th and goal, where we had Caleb Williams drop back like 30 yards and just say, screw it, and just sends a prayer. Cole Kmet comes down with it. That was amazing to watch. Like, it was generational play to send it into overtime, but Bears just unable to get the job done. And Rams come away with the field goal in overtime to win the game. But I see a lot of people crapping on DJ Moore. Kind of gave up on his route, and some say that caused the interception in overtime. I want to give a little bit more grace to DJ Moore. Now, granted, it might just be because he's Panthers somewhat legend, and I miss him. But he's had some really important plays throughout the season that really helped put Chicago in the position that they were this time around. So, like, I will say that just saying that is a little bit too overreactionary. This Rams team is really good. Kyrene Williams able to have 2 touchdowns on the ground with Matthew Stafford throwing for 258 yards. Really good quarterback play coming from both QBs. Caleb Williams just had a couple mistakes that really kind of cost the Bears with 3 interceptions. I know one of them is the one that I mentioned before in overtime, but the two before that also really kind of like just didn't put the Bears in the best scenario. He's still a very young quarterback, and I like him for the Bears. I think the Bears have their guy. I think they have their team pretty much. Things just the maturity needs to be had, and I think this team just needs to grow a little bit more together. And I do see them coming back next year.
I do. I think the Bears are trending upward, obviously, with Ben Johnson, their head coach. So, yeah, they're in a good spot. Obviously, not the way you want to lose, particularly at home, but it's nice seeing the Bears being relevant again. It's something where it's like the Bears have kind of been off and on. They've had, their kind of few lightning in a ball's years, and that's been a question I've been wanting to ask you for a few weeks. Like every like 5 or 6 years, the Bears have like this lightning in a bottle season.
Yeah.
Like 11, like I forget what it was. There was the Mitch Trubisky year, where
Hmm.
the double doink against the Eagles.
Yes.
They've had other years where they made the playoffs, but I'm talking like every 5 to 6 years, they have a year where they really kind of make a run. I mean, then
Hmm.
they go back to being the absolute worst team in the NFL. But
Yes.
you think this is a this you think this is a you think they're not going to fall back
I don't think
again.
they're
You
going to
think
fall
they're going
back.
to
No, I think they have their guy at quarterback. I think that's the number one concern that they've had as a franchise. You're in a tough situation if your best quarterback over the past 100 years is Jay Cutler.
yeah.
And I think the Bears they have their guy. Uh, when it comes to just being a good team in the NFL, it doesn't take an elite quarterback. It takes elite quarterback play. I think they have the tools around Caleb Williams to really help him grow. I think he has glimpses of Aaron Rodgers in him, like with that big arm, being able to make plays that just have you scratching your head. He's a really good quarterback, and I think he's really good for the Bears team altogether. Bears have a pretty solid defense, and I think just in a NFC North that's kind of a little bit up for grabs. I don't see the Vikings being that good in the next coming year. The Packers, they've kind of fallen off a little bit, and I don't know what to think of the Lions. The Bears are the only consistent team that I feel that I have faith in going into this next year.
Fair, very fair. I'd be inclined to agree. I think this is the one time where the Bears don't fall back to the level of irrelevancy.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, Bears Rams. It was a good game. Obviously, just some costly mistakes by Caleb Williams and others. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the both of the games that I've seen the Rams play, teams have showcased how to beat them. The Rams obviously made adjustments from the Panthers game where they just sat back in zone. And are like, man, we let Bryce Young pick us apart. We're gonna have to mix things up on the defensive end, and they did that a little bit with the Bears game. But I think the Panthers and the Bears have set kind of a blueprint for how to beat the Rams. You just have to limit the offensive miscues, and I think you'll be fine. Limit the offensive miscues, miss field goals, keep the picks to a minimum. Do not give them momentum. This Rams offense can stall, and when it does, it can stall in epic proportion, as we saw in the Panthers game when the Panthers came back.
Hmm.
It can stall. It can go vast amounts of time. But the thing is, you cannot give them an inch. They are a sleeping giant who can wake up at any moment.
Hmm.
That's all I got to say on that one. You got to limit the mistakes if you're going to beat the Rams,
Yeah.
or force their special teams to make mistakes, which will get us into my next point when we get to predictions.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to hop into predictions now?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so we have our AFC and NFC matchup right now for the championships. For the AFC championship, we have Broncos Patriots. NFC championship, we obviously have Seahawks Rams. Gareth, which one game do you want to jump into first?
What AFC's on Saturday, right?
Uh, they're they're both on Sunday, I believe.
They're both
Yeah.
on Sunday. Well, let's start chronological. We'll start with the 3 p.m. game, Patriots Broncos.
Yes. I, I like the Patriots in this one. I just think the Broncos. I I've had concerns with Bo Nix making a playoff run, but I did see that he was kind of the heart and soul of this offense. And I just don't know how I'm gonna. I view the Broncos kind of coming out after a tough win that was very costly for them. I just think the Patriots have all the momentum going into this, and I don't see a world in which the Broncos are able to really like. I don't see them coming out of a slump because right now they're on death's door right now.
You know the one bright side
What's the one bright
about
side?
having a quarterback who hasn't played all season.
They don't have film on him.
They don't have film on him. They don't know what concepts work with them. So yes, the Patriots have all the momentum. They do. Certainly look like the better team given the situations. But where have we ever seen an offense with a quarterback who he was kind of their lifeline, but that offense was kind of dead in the water, and then their quarterback goes down hurt?
Eagles,
I present to you Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
I obviously think, in the logic side of my brain, that the Patriots are going to win this game. I
Hmm.
think because it's in Mile High, I think there'll be some home field advantage that kind of keeps the Broncos hanging around.
Hmm.
And it may just kind of come down to the fact that, Jared Stidham's not the regular starter. There's just some miscues, and it could end up being a very close game just because, Mile High and teams really struggle there. But with how I've heard New England fans talk about Jared Stidham, and after his stint in New England, where he wasn't good nor bad, it would just be funny. You know what I'm saying? With how I'm hearing Patriots fans talk about Jared Stidham, if he just lights them the fuck up for one game, gets blown out in the Super Bowl. Mind you, if the Broncos win this game with Jared Stidham, they're absolutely getting run through by the Seahawks or the Rams in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But Jared Stidham, for old time's sake, could just put it together for one game, especially with how these New England fans are talking about him. While these New England fans are sitting at home in a blizzard of up to 2 feet, with
Hmm.
barely any power, and Jared City just goes to work. Just goes to work. Before I make my prediction, let me just check something real quick. I just want to check some season stats here for old Stiddy boy. You know what?
City
You know
boys
what?
up.
He's not half bad. He hasn't been half bad. He kind of reminds me of a Jameis Winston. These stat lines are very Jameis. The 5 games he played for the Patriots, he was 22 of 44 with 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. The games he played for the Raiders, he was 53 of 83 for 4-3. His one Broncos game in 2023, he was 40 of 60 for 496 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. I'm just saying.
I mean, he's obviously not a complete bum that they just got off the street.
And this Broncos defense, I will say, it is a top 3 defense. Seahawks, Texans, and the Broncos. Drake, I will say, Drake May cannot have another game like he had in the playoffs. That past game, he cannot have another game like that.
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, whatever. However that saying goes.
Fool
I
me, you
don't
can't
think
get
he's.
fooled again.
I don't think the Patriots will be able to win if Drake May puts the ball in harm's way 8 times. I know he didn't have 8 turnovers, but if you count the amount of times he put the ball on the deck and Will Campbell recovered it, I don't think that's a recipe for winning. Because what happens if you don't get the lucky bounce where it drops into Will Campbell's hands, and you go from you turn the ball over 4 times to you turn the ball over 8 times. I'm sorry, I don't care who's at the quarterback for the Broncos. If the Patriots turn the ball over 8 times, that's you could put an option quarterback at quarterback for the Broncos, and I think they'd be fine with 8 turnovers with the defense they have. The Patriots' offensive line's improved a lot. It certainly has. But this Broncos pass rush is something else, and I think it'll make the game interesting. You know what? People already think I don't know ball because of how the divisional round went. Give me the Broncos. Give me the Broncos here with a vintage Jared Stidham performance. All right. That being said, we'll jump into Rams Seahawks. This is the third iteration of Rams Seahawks that we will get this season. And it's the currently tied 1-1. And the difference has been special teams. Both have been as a result of missed kicks. I'm forgetting the specifics, but I think Seahawks lost the first one because of a missed kick. The Rams lost the second one because of a missed kick that sent the game to overtime, where they then lost in overtime because the Seahawks went for 2. That's a fucking deal.
Yeah.
I think once again the big determiner here is going to be the special teams. Yes, Seattle lost the first iteration because of a special teams mishap, but the Seahawks special teams has been good outside of that game. The Rams has not.
Hmm.
Beat the Rams is you force them to make mistakes. And I think this is the defense to do it. This Seattle defense has only been getting better and better and better as the season's gone on. They've never been bad, but they've just been collecting momentum. They've been getting better. They've been getting better. The game's in Lumen Field. I'm rolling with the Seahawks on this one. I'm not getting too into the weeds on this. I'm going with the Seahawks as well.
I got to go with the Seahawks as well. Really good offense, really good defense. I've just seen more mistakes coming out of Rams as of late, and I think this Seahawks team is just clicking at the right time right now. I don't want to overcomplicate it. That's just my take.
And I think, and not to get ahead of myself, but I think whoever the Seahawks end up playing in the Super Bowls, they're in for a rough. They're in for a dogfight. I'm not saying the Seahawks are going to automatically win, regardless of who it is, but I'm saying the winner of the AFC is going to have an absolute boxing match on their hands,
Yes.
at least when it comes to physical side.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to add when it comes to the NFL? All
No.
right, shall we jump into some college basketball then?
Let's jump into some college basketball, Gareth.
All right, so we've got some college basketball now for you, and the only word I can think of for not just our teams but any teams right now is wholly inconsistent. Batman, what the hell have we been watching? I mean, do you want to start with Carolina? It's up to you how we start this.
I mean, starting off with Carolina, the main downfall that's been plaguing Carolina is just giving up on field goal percentage. Threes and shooting from distance has just been one of the main forms of kryptonite for UNC. We've been seeing before the win against Notre Dame, in their three losses to SMU, Stanford, and Cal, all teams averaged around over 54% on field goal percentage, as opposed to when they were going for every time they won, it was averaging around like 30%. Giving up these big points has really cost UNC, and we kind of saw a little bit of a return to form with the win against Notre Dame. Field goal percentage was down to 36% on Notre Dame, with only shooting 8 for 25 on the 3 point, where Indy was 32%. Um, North Carolina has the size and the talent to really dominate the paint and dominate defensively when it comes to up close to the basket. But if UNC lets up more threes, that's just going to be ball game. And what we've been seeing with a lot of these teams is the players are just getting hot. I let it slide with SMU, but I can't let that slide against Stanford and Cal. It's going to be really uh, telling how UNC comes out against UVA. Um, and it's all really just going to boil down to, is UNC going to let up the big threes? And that's kind of, if you're going up against UNC, that's what you kind of got to live and die by. Just UNC really needs to try to limit the looks when it comes to those shots. I mean, that's literally all we can really say about it, and that's kind of what you're most likely going to say against when it comes to state, because we've kind of had the same problems.
Yeah, State and Carolina, at least when it comes defensively or just in general, have had the same issues. It's always some no name that goes for like 40 points. NC State has had trouble defending the three, but Will Wade has claimed it schematically. Will Wade has come out and said, we really don't have a good post defender. We have a good post defender, but we don't have a good post defender with good size.
Hmm.
So what we schematically do is we help on the inside and we hopefully force them into contested twos. Now, where this defense works is when you rotate at the right time. The rotations are on time. That's when you force the contested threes. But the issue is in the games that NC State's been struggling in and losing, the rotations haven't been on time, and those contested threes have been threes where they're pretty much open. As of late, State's been doing a lot better job of that. Particularly the Clemson game, huge win on the road, quad one win, quad one double A win since they're top 25 on the road. Unless Clemson really screws the pooch, that's going to be a quad one win unless they drop outside the top 75, which I don't foresee happening. Obviously, the Georgia Tech game happened. NC State shot like a collective 27% from the floor that night. Not good. But hey, people were complaining it's a quad four loss. Season's over. It's not even a quad four loss anymore. It's quad three because of Georgia Tech's on a little bit of a run right now. But good win over Clemson. We got Pitt this weekend on the road. We have not been good against Pitt historically, even if we've been really good that year. But I'm
Is it on the
confident
road
heading
or
into
at home?
it's on the road.
Y'all are good.
Yeah, 4-0 on the road in conference play. 4-0 on the road. We may even be 5-0 on the road in conference play. At home in conference play, we're 0-2 right now.
Yeah.
If this team can mesh and play better together, the fact that we're winning the difficult games on the road, all of our difficult, all of our, I don't want to call them hard games because every game's difficult in the ACC. But if all of our important games in the back half of conference play are at home, and you're 4-0 on the fucking road right now in conference play, outside of the Georgia Tech loss, we're sitting pretty. Okay, Virginia was a surprise. I'm willing to lean into Virginia's just like that this season. Virginia's just like that. Obviously, I'm still optimistic for the rest of the season. State's 2 upcoming games. They've got, like I said, they've got Pitt this weekend at 12. After that, they have Syracuse at home. And then they've got Wake on the road, which toss up for that. But I'm optimistic for Pitt. I think NC State's going to kind of finally turning the corner. I'd like to make a few points before we move on. For the State and Carolina fans that are panicking, and yes, I'll try to keep Aiden from shooting himself over Carolina real quick. The advanced stats right now, and because a lot of people are just saying, and I know my big complaint about the advanced stats is they've done a better job, but for a while the advanced stats in the net, it was like they didn't adjust for strength of schedule. So a lot of teams that were high in the net, I'm like, well, cool, you've just beat up on the College of Biblical Studies. You've just beaten up on Mississippi College for Women. Real team, by the way, who has a men's team. Fun fact. Blueberry fact. Blueberry fact. But here we're looking at the net. After the most recent update of the net, UNC sitting at 27th in the net, NC State sitting at 29th, just above Clemson. UNC is 3-4 in quad one. NC State's 1-4 in quad one. There's no reason to panic. Clearly, the decision makers have faith in State and Carolina, regardless of their current situation. Looking at the more advanced stats that Kenny Pomeroy supplies with us. Adjusted offensive efficiency. NC State and Carolina are both in the top 30 for that in offense. Adjusted defensive efficiency. UNC is sitting at, where are they?
Where are we?
UNC for defensive efficiency is sitting at 52. I guess I won't make that point for a second.
You can make it for State.
For State, defensively, they're sitting at 30th. Or sorry, they're sitting at 40th. So top 30 offense, top 40 defense. Honestly, not a bad place to be, and the analytics support that. Most teams who make it to the Sweet 16 or farther are in both of those. And the season's still young. We're still figuring things out on the defensive end. So yeah. When it comes to NC State, and I know, and both Carolina. People have been, oh, they're not like this, they're not whatever. Where is it? Opposing. When it comes to the opposing teams that NC State's played, and I know NC State has not fared well. Their non-conference is very tough. Same thing with Carolina's. They struggled. They didn't struggle, but they didn't succeed like they had hoped on both ends. What we have seen time and time again is teams that challenge themselves in the non-conference, even if they get absolutely hornswoggled in all those games, it pays dividends in March and in conference play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're starting to see that. I know UNC's on a little bit of a slide, but I think that tough non-conference schedule that we saw from them is going to start to show down the line. It's going to show the resiliency. This team's going to be battle tested and battle proven. They're right there. They're going to figure it out. From personal experience, that road trip to California that these North Carolina teams, how they schedule it, it's a tough one. It's a slog. It usually does not go well. The best you can hope for, and I'm even going to say this for Duke, the years that Duke has an away swath in California, I think the best they can hope for is 1-1, and that's an absolute best case scenario.
I mean,
Because with the way Cal,
didn't they just they won both against Cal and Stanford on the road?
but wasn't it at home? Oh, it was on the road too.
Yeah, no.
Damn.
Yeah, this Duke team's really
Cal,
good.
this Duke team's really good. Now, Cal, I'll give UNC Cal. Cal's very good this year. And I kind of predicted this. They've got a new coach who took basically a Cal team that had nothing last year and made something of it. They didn't make the tournament or anything, but they put together some respectable wins last year. I'll give them that.
Yes.
And they had some of the most entertaining freshmen in the country. But back to my point. In NC State, when it comes to strength of schedule, or at least opponents' strength of schedule, NC State comes in at 39th. For a Power 5 team, that's actually, and this is going to sound crazy. For a Power 4 team, that's actually pretty high. It's actually pretty high for a Power 4 team, considering who Power 4 teams usually play in the non-conference and the net rating of those teams. UNC, where are they? Here, let me just bring up the regular rankings instead of trying to search by stats. UNC's strength of schedule, where are they? UNC's strength of schedule is 69th, which still, for a Power 5 team with the non-conference schedules Power 5 teams play, that's pretty solid. That means even at 69th, your average opponent on average is quad 1, quad 2, which is a lot better than most people. NC State's average opponent is quad 1. Quad 1, quad 2, leaning towards quad 1. They have tough schedules. And like I said, back to the point I was making, tough schedules usually tend to work out well for conference play and in March. Remember, we're ACC teams. We play the long game. We peak in March while other teams falter. The metrics point to NC State and Carolina fans should be trusting their teams right now. Yes, Hubert Davis has some absolutely inexcusable losses. Yes, Will Wade has had some absolutely inexcusable losses. Will Wade's a first-year head coach. Hubert Davis basically has had to overhaul this Carolina team. He lost a lot. Whether it be portal, graduation, the draft, whatever, you name it. He's lost a lot. Now, for some of the transfers Hubert Davis had, I think losing Ian Jackson to St. John's, it's whatever. Like, look at where St. John's is now. And I'm not a St. John's hater. I like Patino. I like St. John's. I mean,
they're putting together
as much
a couple
as I can.
good wins.
They put together a couple good wins, but they also have some fucking head scratchers. Losing to Providence at home.
Yeah, that's
not good.
Yeah, that's not good.
But no, my main point here is when it comes to State and Carolina, I think their fans should be. They're okay. The consensus on NC State and Carolina is pretty the same. In the net, NC State's 29th. In the Ken Palm, they're 27th. Carolina in the net is 27th. Carolina in the Ken Palm's 33rd, which, that's not bad. Carolina, when it comes to their net, or what's it? Where is it? When it comes to their net rating, or at least there's like a rating on the Ken Palm on whether, they're playing above board, or, what it thinks they're overrated or underrated. Carolina, it says they're perfectly rated for their record. What are they? You're like 13-4 right now. I had it in front of me for a second. Carolina's 15-4.
15-4.
So not a bad place to be. NC State, they have at plus 4.6. That means they think they're playing 4 spots above where they should be. Like NC State's currently at 27th. They think they're playing on the level of 23rd overall based on their current performances. And yeah, I think that's all I have. But I think State and Carolina are playing a lot better than I think their fans are willing to admit right now, just because of some of the frustrations with the current losses. Yeah, with that being said, I'll talk a little bit about Providence here. Yikes. End of game scenarios. You're up 3 against Marquette with 2 seconds left. How the fuck do you foul them shooting a 3? And not even a good one. How? How? Why? Why is that even an option? I'm a big believer in, if you're going to foul, make damn well sure they don't score. Fair. You did that. But and I kind of flip back and forth. If it's a 3, don't fucking foul on it. Okay, a 2. I'll give you this here. End of game scenarios, I have a weird thing with that. If you're up 3, don't foul. If you're up 3, foul, but send them to the line for a 2. Send them to the line for 2. Make it mathematically impossible for them to get 3. That seems like a fair strategy, right? And most teams employ that, right? If I'm not mistaken. If you're up 3 with like 10 seconds to go, you foul, make them go to the line, shoot 2, and then you get the ball back.
Yeah.
This is going to sound crazy, and this may sound way too Jim Valvano. The only time I'd be okay scoring is, say there's like 30 seconds. They have the last possession, and they've got some shooters. Send them to the line, force them to make both. That way, worst case scenario, you have the ball back, and you get the last possession. That's the only time where I'm like, okay, foul. But foul someone shooting a 3 up 3, that's ridiculous. Kim English's management of end-of-game scenarios has been just absolutely god-awful. Villanova game, UConn game, this Marquette game. I want Kim English to work out. I like him as a dude. As far as Division I coaches go, he's a pretty solid guy. No big scandals, not a controversial character, generally treats everyone with respect. Shows up to the non-revenue sports games and not just as like a photo op. He stays and watches. He's invested. He sat down with us at the Providence Sports Awards show. Like every athletic department has an award ceremony for athletes that they want to recognize. He had a 45-minute conversation with swimming with the Providence, and I'll go out and say, I'll reference where I went. He had a 45-minute conversation with the Providence men's swim team because he wanted to learn more. And he wanted to come to a swim meet. And he wanted to know what was going on. So he goes, so I can talk about it educated. And he goes, so I can properly support y'all. I want to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So when I criticize Kim English here, I do it as I already think he's a stand-up dude. Mm-hmm. He likes Providence. He embodies the Providence mentality that I think a small basketball school should. Mm-hmm. I like him. I want him to work out.
Yes.
I've met him. Great dude. Even the smallest person he believes on his team contributes in a massive way. Mm-hmm. And I get with the young coach, there's going to be growing pains. But, dude, it's just starting to be pains at this point. You got to grow from them. You got to grow from them.
Yeah.
And it could be that this portal class just isn't it. It could be. Mm-hmm. Last year, you had an amazing portal class, but the season fell apart when they all got hurt.
Yeah.
Fair. Injury bug happens to the best of them. That team still fought last year and played fundamental basketball. This team this year is not quite playing fundamental basketball on the defensive end. My one thing for Providence, one of the best offensive teams in the nation, statistically. Let me pull it up. Let's go up offensive rating. Offensive efficiency is essentially how many points do you score per 100 possessions? And I'll pull out a Kim English quote. On average, if you're a good basketball team, you want to average 1 point per possession. So naturally, that means you're probably going to get a basket on every other possession, if you get what I'm saying. Because, there's really no 1 point possession. You want to average about 1 point per possession to be a winning basketball team. Let me pull up Providence. Providence is a top 30 offense. They average 123 points on 100 possessions. So they average 1.2 points a possession. That's pretty good. In fact, that's better than 90. That's better than 90. I did the math. That's better than 91% of teams. Where they run into trouble is the defensive end. They let up 1.1 points per possession. Still, that sounds like a winning formula. You're averaging 0.1 points more than the other team per possession. Where they are running into trouble, for me, is the tempo. Tempo works for some people. Georgia, they're 16-3. They are the fastest team in the nation. They average 74 possessions per 40-minute game. That is a metric fuck ton of possession. They're efficient. They shoot well. Providence averages 72 just off of that. Still in the top 10 in pace. If you're Providence, for me, I know the math would say keep playing fast based off 1.2 to 1.1. Counter proposal. If your offense is so efficient and your defense is so bad, why not slow it down? You're one of the most offensively efficient teams in the nation. Slow it down. I think this fast pace of play is not good for your defense. The effort on defense sometimes is already questionable. The decision making is already questionable. Slow it down. Let the players get their energy back. Maybe they'll make better decisions. If you're already efficient on offense, I don't think the speed's either helping or harming you here. Slow it down. Dictate the pace. That's the Kim English offense I'm used to. Slow it down. Dictate the pace. You can still score a lot of points because you're efficient. Take good shots. This is exactly what the NC State team did that went on that Final Four run. They slowed the pace down. They focused on the energy on defense, and then they just kept taking good shots on offense. I think that's Providence's key to success here.
Yeah.
Slow it down. Still take good shots. Still run these great offensive sets where you're averaging, there are times where Providence has 60 points at halftime, and they still lose. Not because they've blown a lead, just because the defense has been letting up 60 points in the first half too. Slow it down. Bring the energy back on the defense and start with a good defense. Kim English, you have outside of this year, you have been a pretty good defensive mastermind. Your defensive schemes are pretty good. And the frustration this year is you're a defensive guru and your defense, let me bring up the defensive rating and then Providence. Oh, dog. Providence's defense is 177th. East Carolina has a better defense.
Damn.
University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley has better defense.
Don't diss my Gauchos.
I'm not. I think Providence.
I don't know if that's their mascot.
Oh, the Gauchos is Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Santa Barbara.
They have the worst defense in the Power Five. I'm not counting Oregon State and Washington State because they are now technically mid-major. They have the worst defense in the Power Five. That's kind of unacceptable. Now, this isn't the whole onus isn't on Kim English. It's also up to the players to carry out the defensive game plan to make good decisions. But being the worst team in the Power Five at defense, as Providence, who's a team who's historically known for their defensive stoutness, that's got to be embarrassing. And I'm not just putting this on Kim English. I'm putting this on the players. How do you, as players, with the history that Providence has of good defenses, be okay with it? Unlike NC State and Carolina, Providence defends the three all right. The problem is their post defense, their inside shooting defense. It's just non existent. Providence plays Georgetown this Saturday. I'm going to give them the win. I don't trust this Georgetown team whatever. The Ed Cooley experiment in Georgetown's not working out. I think something went awry in the timeline when Ed Cooley decided to leave. Not saying I'm not grateful for Kim English. I am. I prefer having a stand-up guy as our basketball coach other than a slime bag who cheats on his wife with female GAs.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Kim English. I'd like him to win. But in a world full of Ed Coolies, I like having Kim English as my coach from a moral and ethical standpoint. But like I said, I'll give Providence the game against Georgetown. It's at home. The Amp's going to be rocking. This is a game I want to take Aiden to at some point. But,
Mm-hmm.
if Ed Cooley doesn't get fired before we can get him to win, because that very well may happen. Ed Cooley may be jobless. Funny enough, when right before Kevin Keatts they were thinking about firing Keatts, or there was rumors about firing Keatts the year before the Final Four run where we lost in the first round. You know whose name came up in the NC State circles? Ed Cooley.
Yeah.
But that's all I have for Providence. Are there any other teams you want to highlight right now? Some teams that you think, aren't getting the hype they deserve? Some teams you want to talk about?
I want to go into some predictions, and then with that, I'm going to be highlighting some different teams
Absolutely.
in doing that. Want to start off with UNC versus UVA. UNC's going over to Charlottesville. This is going to be a really interesting game. Defensively, UVA is very uh, solid, best in conference. Mid to upper tier when it comes to field goal percentage, and that's going to be the real point of this game. I don't have concerns when it comes to UNC's offense being able to match up with UVA's defense. I think we have an elite offense, but it's just going to be, can UNC stop these threes? This UVA team, it's not known for its offense, but it will get you if you're not careful. So with this, I have to give this one to UVA. But if UNC is able to lock down on defense and really turn this around, I think this game could be a big turning point of the whole season.
I agree. I agree with you here. You guys are actually better from the field as a whole than they are shooting. But I
Yes.
think the big thing here is going to be the 3-point percentage. They shoot 37% from the floor. Not elite, but above average.
I
Average
was
is
saying
about
I was
30
I was saying 47% from field goal. So just a
as a
little
whole,
bit
yeah.
as a whole. So that's also where my concern lies because the twos also equally get UNC.
Yeah, and I will say UNC from the floor is overall better, but like we said, it's that threes. One thing that UNC could do a little bit better that I think is going to be crucial in this game is the free throws. 67% from the free throw line. You're going to need to be a little bit better than that. UVA themselves not too good from the free throw line, so that may not be a difference maker to begin with. UVA is
Mhm.
only around 70. Um, I'm going to give this one to UVA. I do think Carolina could make this interesting as they are a really good rebounding team. So is UVA. If they're able to out rebound UVA, I think that could be a big one. The big thing here for me on the UVA defense is UNC is going to have to limit turnovers.
Mhm.
Averaging 10 a game, not bad. I'd say that's pretty good. But it's not the I'm not worried about Carolina on the unforced turnovers. It's the forced turnovers, the ones where I'm looking at these steals for UVA. I'm looking at the blocks. If you get what I'm saying, I'm looking at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, I just think For Carol, I think UVA is going to win this, but if I think Carolina wants to win this, they're going to have to be elite on the offensive glass, and they're going to have to limit 3 point. You know
Yeah.
that's all I have for that.
Moving around the top 25, keeping it in the ACC, we have Duke versus Wake Forest. In-state rivalry between two private schools. You know, these games can be pretty weird, but I just have not been liking what I've been seeing out of Wake Forest. Had a good performance against UNC, but they've just been pretty lackluster to say the least. Duke, very proficient. I like this team a lot. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. I got Duke winning this one. It's in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke's going to Duke.
Yeah, I will say I'm gonna give it an interesting twist. I think this game will be close, but I think Duke's going to win. Wake Forest on the road against rivals this season has kept it pretty close and has been good. They've kept it pretty close. Um, Now outside they did get blown out at NC State. I for some reason thought that was at Wake Forest, but yeah, I think they'll keep it close because they've done a habit of keeping it close outside of that game with rivals on the road this season. But I'm giving this one to Duke. It's at home.
We have an undefeated Nebraska team at 19-0 going up against Minnesota on the road. Road games in conference can be really challenging, but I like this Nebraska team a lot. I know they're probably going to slip up eventually, but with Price, Stanford, and Sam Holligberg, this team's just been pretty proficient on offense all year round, and has had some really solid wins against a really good Michigan State team and an Illinois team. I like this Nebraska team a lot on the road against the Minnesota team. That's kind of left a lot to be expected. You don't expect much coming from Minnesota, but this Nebraska team is special.
Yep. I don't think Minnesota's going to pose much of a challenge. This Nebraska team, well, I'll start with Minnesota. Minnesota is a team that doesn't necessarily shoot that well from the field. 45, not bad, not good, but 3 point they shoot a little bit below the national average. Turn the ball over a little bit more than average. They're good on the offensive glass, but when it comes to Nebraska, they're just super solid on the defensive end. They limit turnovers, 9 turnovers a game. That's below the average. And I just think this Nebraska team, they're just sound. I can't tell how good they are, but they are fundamentally sound. They take care of the basketball, and you can't fault them for that. So they also average 81 points a game. Minnesota averaging 72. That's not really good. Looking here at my advanced metrics for Minnesota, they sit at 82nd in the Ken Palm in net. Where are they? F Minnesota. Minnesota sits 83rd in the net, just above Old Miss. Just a few spots above Providence as well, not right above Grand Canyon and High Point as well. Minnesota, not particularly. They're a little bit above average when it comes to being a fast offense. Um, they average, 1.1 points per possession on the offensive end. On the defensive end, they average letting up 1 point per possession. I just think this Minnesota team's just too kind of middle of the pack. They're not going to be able to keep up with Nebraska.
Yeah. Going over to the ACC, we have Georgia Tech, who's been kind of turning it around a little bit, versus Clemson, who's coming off a tough loss to NC State. This is going to be a definite game to look at. It's at Georgia Tech. Could be a big trap game for Clemson right now.
A little bit of a slide going on.
A little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. I might have to go with Georgia Tech on this one.
Yeah, especially with it being on the road. Um, and Clemson coming off of a rough day shooting, having to go to Georgia Tech, an early tip off. This just screams trap game. I'm gonna have to agree with you. This is gonna be I think this is gonna be a win for Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Arizona undefeated 19-0 going up against West Virginia. It's at home. I got to give this one to Arizona, but that leads us into a really interesting top 25 uh, Big 12 matchup. Do you want to talk about Arizona a little bit before we go into Houston versus Texas Tech? Or
This Arizona team's just so solid. I mean,
Mhm.
I know Michigan's ranked above them in a lot of the metrics. I know Michigan still occupies the top spot in the net. Arizona sits at third, but this Arizona team, it's unbelievable. This Duke team's good, but this Arizona team is crazy. Looking at their stats, they are they're not the number one offense that goes to Illinois, but they average 1.3 points per possession. They let up. Oh my God. They let up less than a point per possession. They let up for every 100 possessions the opposing team gets, they let up 92. Um, they have a crazy strength of schedule with an average. They have a 45th strength of schedule, which is pretty good for Power Five. Um, this team's just good. They play at kind of a medium pace. It's very hard for me to see this team lose a lot of games this year. I mean, they do a lot right. They take care of the basketball. They turn the ball over a little bit more than normal, but they take care of the basketball over. I think those numbers are inflated by a few bad outings, but they out rebound teams. They spread the ball around. They average 18 and a half assists a game, 4 blocks. Um, they just absolutely destroy on both the offensive and defensive boards. This Arizona team's a machine. So I'm taking Arizona in a big way. I like this West Virginia team. I think they could be an interesting bubble team come March, but I think that this is going to be an absolute beatdown. This team's a machine.
We got Houston versus Texas Tech. Houston, another team that's just a well-oiled machine. Texas Tech has had a few losses, but has been pretty consistent in conference play. Um, this is the second iteration of this matchup, this time at home. Do you see Texas Tech evening out the series against Houston?
And Texas Tech, interesting matchup here. Like Aiden brought up to me off camera, this is the second time they're meeting. I think Texas Tech's going to get their revenge here. It's at home for them. Houston's coming off a kind of above board shooting day against Arizona State, where they just really piled it on 56 points in the first half. Um, on the whole, Houston's not a very good shooting team, but I think they make up for that in their ability to rebound and just take care of the basketball as a whole. They limit turnovers. They're good on their free throws. But I just think with the way Texas Tech plays, they shoot really well from the floor. They're almost 40% from three. They do turn the ball over, but not much more than the average. They are also good on the defensive rebounds. Like I said, they're also good on the glass. Texas Tech, when it comes to offensive efficiency, they are the number 13 team in offensive efficiency, whereas Houston sits around 20. Defensively, Houston's the number 4 team. Texas Tech still sits around that 28 to 30 mark. I'll give it to even some of these teams that are in the 30s and 40s defensively are still considered statistically elite.
Hmm.
They average, to around 1 to a little less than 1 point per possession. That's still really good. But for this, it's at home for Texas Tech, road conference game. I like this Houston team. They're a well-oiled machine. But I think this Texas Tech team just has enough. They really took it to Houston on the road at Houston, so I'm going to give Texas Tech the win here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. Um, Jumping around again in the top 25, we got Purdue versus Illinois. Purdue coming off a tough loss against UCLA on the road. They're back home now against the Illinois team that's ranked 11, 7-1 in the Big Ten. A lot of implications going into this matchup. I do have to probably go with Purdue on this one, though.
I'm going to go with Purdue as well. I like Illinois, but and when I say they're a touch overrated, I don't mean they suck. I think they're a top 10, or excuse me. I think they're a top 25 team. I just think 11's a little high. You said 11. Now I know the
Yeah.
AP poll isn't necessarily as accurate with college basketball. They sit at around 8 in the Ken Palm. In the net, where are they in the net? In the net, they are sitting at around 9. I just don't have a great feeling about them. I still think they're a great team. They're gonna like, they can take it to the best of them, but I'm gonna have to go with Purdue here. I think Purdue's just too good. They're too solid defensively.
Yeah. That kind of wraps up the teams that I wanted to highlight in college basketball. Unless Gareth, there's some matchups that you wanna give a shout out to.
One matchup that I just particularly want to mention, and it's a big one when it comes to kind of top dog in the Big East. Villanova UConn.
Hmm.
Um, this UConn team, relatively unblemished record. This Villanova team, after a terrible start to the year, has caught absolute fire. Um, they start like obviously they lost to Creighton a few days ago, at kind of heartbreaking fashion. But this Villanova team has kind of righted the ship from the beginning of the season. They start off with a loss to BYU, and then they kind of bounced around some close wins to teams they probably shouldn't have been close to. Got blown out by Michigan. Season really wasn't looking that good. Close one over Seton Hall, which little did we know they turned out to be good. Then from there, they're on kind of a streak now in the Big East. They're at UConn right now. UConn, they've been good, but they've kind of had some slip ups. UConn not particularly shooting the three very well this year. They shoot all right from the floor, about even on free throws. Metrically, these teams are about even. They average a little bit more blocks because they have a little bit more height. But I'm going to go off on a limb here. Give me Villanova. I'll take Villanova winning in Gamble Pavilion. UConn, they've been kind of shaky at times. Last year, UConn was shaky at home sometimes. This Kyle Neptune Villanova team, or not Kyle Neptune, he got fired. Actually, no, he is the no, he's an assistant coach for the who's the Villanova head coach? Excuse me. Oh, Kevin Willard. He came from Maryland. My bad. This Kevin Willard team is kind of on fire right now, and I trust him. So give me Villanova over UConn for this one. I know it's kind of a controversial take, but I just like the direction Villanova trending in.
Yeah.
Is that all you want to cover for college basketball now?
Yes, it is. But
During
before we go, UFC 324 debuting on Paramount. We have a big card to start off this year. I've been excited for it. Gareth, I know you've been excited for it. I'm getting my Paramount subscription tomorrow. Day of fight. I'm probably going to be snowed in. This is looking very nicey for me. I don't have work. It looks this is going to be a legendary night for me, and I'm very excited for it. But just an absolutely stacked card this go around. Like I'm very impressed. The prelims are filled with bangers. The main card is filled with bangers, and we even got some TikTok fighters for Gareth in there. So Patty the Patty. This is probably one of the most important cards
and
of the
Sugar
past.
Sean.
Yes, and Sugar Sean. Get your Paramount subscription, Gareth. It is only $8 a month. We are watching this for $8.
I don't. It's not just TikTok. He is from Sugar Sean is from my friend's hometown,
Yes, yes.
so I root
But
for him out of obligation to that friend.
of course, of course. Started like just going up in the prelims. This is a prelim fight. We got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davidson Figueiredo in a bantamweight bout. This has bantamweight championship implications in it. I like Umar Nurmagomedov a lot. I like Davidson and Figueiredo. Both fighters are pretty proficient in takedown, but Umar has the takedown advantage. Um, he's also very proficient in landing significant strikes at 64.3%. I got Umar Nurmagomedov winning this one. Going into the main card, we have Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Um, this is going to be a matchup between a southpaw and orthodox with Gene Silva having really solid grappling. Arnold Allen really proficient in his boxing. Um, I'm going to have to go with Gene Silva in this one. A very interesting women's flyweight matchup with Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Uh, I like Rose Namajunas a lot. I know a lot of people are kind of hit or miss with her, kind of saying she's past her prime. But coming off a solid win against Miranda Maverick, um, I got Rose Namajunas winning this one. Uh, Another interesting heavyweight matchup. We got Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is just one of those legends in heavyweight. Um, he's kind of like a gatekeeper when it comes to heavyweight. The up and coming people usually kind of have to take their shot at him, and he really kind of maintains uh, the power structure when it comes to heavyweight. Most knockouts in UFC history. He is just one of those scary fighters. Um, this is going to be an absolute slugfest in this one. I don't know if Derek Lewis still has it in him. I mean, he's 40 years old, which, granted, heavyweight tends to be a little bit of an older division, but Acosta has like he's 6 years younger than him. Is a little bit more inexperienced when it comes to the heavyweight division. You know what? Just for the memes and how incredible this card is, I got to give this one to Derek Lewis, continuing his streak of like the most knockouts in UFC history. I see him getting another knockout in this one, amping up the record that he already has. We have a bantamweight matchup between Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Song Yongdong from China. Sean O'Malley has been on the decline lately, and I think right now we're going to get him at a good time where he's back to being motivated. The UFC knows that this is one of their like big fighters, and it just statistically, Sean O'Malley dominates Song on pretty much all levels. He has a better striking, even a little bit of a better takedown advantage, which Sean O'Malley is not the best grappler, but I just want to see Sean O'Malley kind of expand his repertoire a little bit. I think this is going to be a good fight for him to get back on track. I got Sean O'Malley winning this one. And then the main event that we've all been waiting for. We have a title fight for the interim lightweight championship. I don't know if it's interim or going to be official, but right now the lightweight division is up for grabs between Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, one of the legendary lightweight fighters, always kind of been in the contention race for like the past 5 years, and Paddy Pimblett over those past 5 years has really been kind of making a name for himself in the UFC. If you told me 5 years ago that Paddy Pimblett would be a legitimate lightweight contender, I would have been very surprised. He had some very questionable wins in the past, but right now he's been on an absolute tear. He's had some very impressive wins, and he's just been a guy that you really need to look out for. He's had um, surprisingly good grappling, especially somebody coming from England. Usually they're more known for their striking, but Paddy Pimblett has been able to kind of diversify his repertoire. He had a good win against Michael Chandler, um, and took him out in a very dominant fashion, more dominant than uh, excuse me hang on, I just making sure. Charles Oliveira. Um, I like Patty Pimblett a lot in this fight, and I think, you know what, we might see a Patty Pimblett champion this time around. So give me Patty Pimblett to take the white lightweight championship and usher in this new era in Paramount.
So he gets to be the interim champion because which one of the fighters moved up? Because you have to vacate in order to move up. You have to vacate, right?
He did not vacate. Let me just fact check everything to make sure, like, if he actually did vacate. 1 second. Where? Damn, ESPN's kind of taking everything down. Hang on.
That's why we're on the Real Sports app, not a paid promotion.
Yeah, hang on. Do do do. Ilya Tapora, he did vacate. He's stepping away from the UFC for a little while now. It's been disputed whether he's like completely vacating or not, but for right now, I'm just saying it's still a from what I've seen recently, it is still an interim championship. I think Ilya Tapora might be coming back later this year. He's had some controversy with like divorce that's going on right now, and he's taking time away from fighting from that. So I think it's still interim, but ESPN's they've kind of fallen off. Once this has kind of moved on from they've moved on from UFC. They've kind of like had their website's kind of a little bit down and a little bit behind on a lot of things. But from what I see, it's still an interim championship.
So would they have to give it up if he comes back?
The winner of the interim championship will fight Ilya Tapora if he comes back. If he doesn't come back, he's just automatically the champion.
I see. Sounds good. Just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify.
yes. But that's going to sum up my predictions for UFC 324. I'm really excited for this. It's going to be I'm really excited for this era. Now that pay-per-views are gone, I'm excited to see how this uh, new format brings more fans into the UFC.
I am as well. I'm definitely gonna use my Paramount subscription to watch this on top of the soccer that I used to watch it. But
Yeah.
I'm
But
excited.
yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm all set. I think that's good. That's I know we said this would be a short episode. Here we are at 2 hours. You know, when Aiden and I get going on stuff we're passionate about, we get going. So
Yes, yes. But I guess we will see you all next week then.
see you all next week. And with college baseball on the horizon.
Ooh, I'm excited to do predictions for that. Also, upcoming after the Super Bowl, we will be doing our yearly uh, football awards for both college and the NFL. We're going to be coming out with some new awards. It is one of the most prestigious award shows in the Triangle area with
We're
sports
going all out for
podcasts.
this. Yeah.
But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe out there with all the weather.
Yeah,
Everyone,
clear up to us too. 2 feet. You guys can get 2 feet. We're definitely getting at least a foot.
wherever you're watching this, I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy. And I pray for all of that with you and your families. But thank you so much for watching. And we will see you all next time.